made a very critical decision for this trip that I think is important to let you guys know. First and foremost, I only brought 2 cameras, my Fuji X100V and my Pentax K1000 for film. The second thing is, this around, you probably can't see it. This is the Peter McKinnon backpack. It is my only source of luggage, and we're just roughing it. In Memphis, there was 3 baggage people helping, so they had to delay our flight, and I have 20 minutes to get to my flight in Chicago. But then after that, New York. So I did decide to live out of my Peter McKinnon travel bag for a trip to New York just a few weeks ago. This camera bag was not only hyped, maybe even overhyped at times, but for the past couple of years, it's like all any YouTuber's been talking about. So I thought to myself, how do I provide you guys with some really good information on the bag for 2022? Because a lot of us, especially when we're traveling, we want to bring our gear with us, but we also want to pack clothes and even pack light. So that's my goal for today's video, is to show you guys this bag in its element in 2022. Is it worth it? Should you buy it? Do you need it? Are there greater bags out there? All of that will be explained through practical usage. And by the way, my name is Andrew. You can call me Pooch. I'd like to welcome you to the Less Selling channel. I'm really glad y'all are here. I've been living out of the Peter McKinnon Nomatic Travel Bag for the past week. So I was inspired by my brother-in-law, who is a world traveler who's been to so many places. And when he was telling me he lived out of his backpack, I was a little shocked, because honestly, I'm the kind of guy who overpacks. I like to think of many scenarios where I'd need multiple pairs of socks, multiple pairs of underpants, 3 different types of pants. Hey, what if it's cold? What if it's wet? What if it's too dry? But I thought to myself, okay, how do I level up? And so when I received the Nomatic backpack as a Christmas gift, I knew this might be a way to try that. This thing, for all intents and purposes, is absolutely amazing. So when I say I use this bag as a suitcase, and I put suitcase in quotes because I really did push this thing to its absolute limits. It was bussin'. It was about to pop. Let's do a quick cutaway back to New York City. I'm gonna show you what actually went into the bag. So here's all that went in this. First things first, sleep shorts. Next up, 2 t-shirts. The Unmentionables, 4 pairs of underpants, 4 pairs of socks, some thermals, 1 sweater, 1 pair of pants. Oops. Let's throw some gloves in the mix as well. Some of you may be wondering how I got away with packing so little for a week-and-a-half long trip, and that also comes from my brother-in-law, Nathan. The dude is just a travel genius. I washed my clothes in the sink, in the tub, hand wash, got good soap, kept it clean every other day or so just to make sure I wasn't like stinky. And that afforded me 1, to pack light and only use 1 bag, and 2, to spend some money in New York, which I probably didn't need to do, but I mean, you know, Emily Dore, only New York, I had to spend some money. Going to the back of the bag, I did go ahead and change up the way I was planning to use the space. Originally, I thought all camera gear on the back of the bag, all clothing in the front of the bag, but that just wasn't actually gonna cut it. Here's where I got a little crafty. You see here, I actually ended up putting clothes in these slots. I only utilized this area for camera gear. I've got my film right here. I had my SD cards here. My X100V went here. Here's my film camera. And I tried to keep everything really simple. Shoes, camera gear, extra clothes. Because of this, I was able to fit everything in the bag. In reality, I don't think I would have been able to pack the way that I did and live the way that I did if I didn't remove some of the camera options from the back of the bag. But the fact that I could store some extra clothes in the back and also an extra pair of shoes, I was pretty impressed. I mean, that's pretty fantastic. All right, now that we're back here in the studio, let's go ahead and break down the pros and cons of the bag. I have it right here. Let me grab it really quick. I mean, it is a massive thing. I kind of want to put it somewhere where we can see it and I can talk about it while it's behind me. Oh, I have an idea. One of the most important tools in a filmmaker's kit is the clamp. All right. All right. With the bag behind me, I feel better about talking about it. I just wanted to make sure that you could see it at least. She's a beast. So the pros and cons, me walking away from the week-and-a-half long trip in New York City with the bag. Let's start with the pros. I was never once worried about weather conditions or any damage that could have happened to my camera gear while using this bag. The thing is a tank, it's sturdy, it's got this great texture that just repels any water, any elements, which is great because on day one it actually snowed. So I was walking around in some boots and it was gross and the bag was fine. So pro number one is it's definitely durable. Pro number two, I'd say, is the fact that I could just live out of it very minimally, but I could do it. I personally do not enjoy carrying a lot of bags with me, especially when I'm going for the purpose of enjoying a city. I really don't like the idea of like, oh, I'm gonna have a bag just full of camera gear on my back. Now, if I was on a production shoot and I was traveling for that, obviously I'm carrying more than just this bag, and probably I'm carrying Pelican cases full of my gear and getting it on the plane. But for the week-long trip where I'm just going to enjoy myself, I'm not trying to bring all that stuff. Now, the last pro for me with this bag specifically is that I was able to customize these sheets. I mean, these guys are sturdy, they're really strong. I used a brevity bag and I still do for like daily stuff if I'm just going to do a photo shoot or something simple like that. And my biggest con with those is that the flaps, the dividers, are so flimsy. They just flop around everywhere. This thing is sturdy and I really like that. I was able to customize the build in my bag. I felt like these were just great. And the Velcro is just super strong, which is just fantastic. Now, nothing is without its cons, so let me talk to you about that. The bag comes with like, the front clasp and the waist straps to help relieve back pain. And I think that does actually help a little bit, but I will say packing this thing to the brim, no matter what you do, it's gonna be heavy and it's gonna be sweaty. Walking around the airport and then walking to and from the airport from my Airbnb, it just wasn't super comfortable carrying that thing around. Even in the cold, like I was getting hot on my back and it was like 30 degrees in New York City and windy and I was still getting sweaty. Up next is actually the size. Now, hear me out. Yes, I've said that this thing is big multiple times. Whatever, it's designed to be big. It's just what it is. The cool thing is that it actually can fit under your seat on a plane or in an overhead compartment. Sometimes. So on the front, the bag has this zipper that lets you expand the top to fit more clothes in the top, which makes the bag thicker. When I did this, I could barely fit it under a chair or an overhead compartment. And on a full plane, that's a problem. I actually had to check a bag on my way from Chicago to New York because the plane, while bigger, wasn't wider. So I had a smaller space in front of me and the plane was packed so there was no overhead compartments. And that was a little frustrating. I don't love checking bags. And my last con is this, and it's not so much a con as it is a use case. If you're thinking about getting this bag, just know that its best practical use case is with travel. I've brought it on some shoots, and for maybe larger productions, it's nice, but I will say that it's not necessary. I was doing fine using the brevity bag to just throw some like random odds and ends in, and then using a Pelican case to bring my camera rig with me to a shoot. Now, I'm not saying that I'm unhappy to have this and unhappy to use it. I'm just saying that if you're thinking I need to have it, you don't, unless you plan on traveling or if you're just trying to bring more stuff on set. It's kind of like the idea of going from a smaller space to a larger space where it's like, yes, you had everything you needed in the small space you made do. You get to the bigger space and all of a sudden you just buy a bunch of other stuff to fill that space. You never really needed it, though it's nice to have all that extra space. Does that make sense? So there you have it. That's my takeaways from living out of the Peter McKinnon bag for a week and a half in New York City. It was dope. I guess my final recommendation is, if you can get your hands on it, go for it. It's not cheap, and so I was fortunate to get this as a gift. If I was buying this flat out for my studio or for just my professional work, it would not be on the top rung of purchases to buy. I'd probably buy some more C-stands or more lights. Anyway, let me know what you think. Are you gonna get one in 2022? Are you gonna try to live out of it for like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks? That's just a lot of hand washing your clothes, but I think it's possible. And hey, thank you for helping me feel less lonely on my creative journey. If you wanna feel the same, then I'd recommend leaving a like, dropping a comment, and ultimately subscribing so that we can be creative together and feel less lonely. Oh, it feels so good to be getting at it. I need to wrap this up though, because I got edits to do for clients now. So, it never ends. But I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for being here. Peace.